like Iron Maiden a lot.
Hey everyone, welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock and 50 Years of Iron Maiden. We are here with episode 26, Dance of Death, and our special guest tonight is Lana Teramae, music journalist for Metal Express Radio. You've probably seen one of her very cool interviews with some of our favorite rock stars, and you can check out her blog at lanateramae.com exactly as it appears on the screen. Lana, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, Mike. Thanks for letting me join you guys. And Harrison, nice to see you again.
Yes, great to have you on.
Lana has not been on this show. Well, she's never been on Grab a Stack of Rock, but she used to be a semi-regular back in our old show called the LeBrain Train. And we did some of our most fun episodes with her, including a great one on our top animated movies and cartoons and so on. So check those out if you want to see some Lana on the LeBrain Train. As far as tonight's topic goes, Iron Maiden, do you want to tell us real quickly about you and Iron Maiden, your personal love of the band?
Well, I got into rock and metal later than you guys. And actually, I got in the first song I heard of Iron Maiden. I believe it was The Trooper. It was on I'm not sure if you heard this channel. It's called Andy and Alex Reacts or something like that. And so I heard that song, and I used to actually play that in the car. I played that in the car once on the way to a graduation ceremony because my auntie was in the car and I didn't really want to talk to her. That's a mean story, but that's my memory of how I really got into Iron Maiden. And then then it all just clicked. And kind of like how all these, first it was Queen, then it was Def Leppard, then it was AC/DC, then all these bands just started coming in, and I slowly bought some of the albums, and then I eventually got this guy around June 2024, and actually I was fortunate enough to see Iron Maiden last year in October, and this was before Nico McBrain, he retired. I'm sorry, is it Nico or Nico? I could never pronounce his name.
I call them both, actually. I've called them both on this show.
Okay. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to see them with Nico, so I'm very thankful for that, because I almost didn't go, because I was like, they're not really one of my favorite bands, but then I'm like, oh damn, how cool would it be to see Iron Maiden live at least once? So I'm very glad I did. So, and I'll shut up right now because I'll talk more once we get into the album.
Okay. Now, you did say that Iron Maiden weren't one of your favorite bands then. Are they one of your favorite bands now?
I would say not one of my favorites, but I will say that when it comes to metal, they're one of the bands that I would go to, along with Overkill and Saxon and Judas Priest. Yeah.
Okay. So that gives us an idea of where you stand with Iron Maiden, which will become important as we start breaking down these tracks and sharing our thoughts. But first, let's talk about the album Dance of Death. This was released on the 2nd of September, 2003. It was recorded from January to February 2003. So that's actually a long turnover until its September release. It was recorded at Studio Sarm West in London, released on EMI, produced by Kevin the Caveman Shirley. Now that sleeve illustration that you see there is by somebody named Dave Patchett. It went uncredited, of course, because I think that's actually a mercy, not crediting Mr. Patchett with the cover art. This is considered Maiden's worst album cover, but we usually save that talk until the end. So I will save my criticism for this album cover towards the end, but those are the facts. This is the very first Iron Maiden album to have writing credits from all 6 members, which is interesting. We'll talk about that as we start diving deep into the songs. Well, let's start diving deep into the songs. Why don't we start with the opener? Wildest Dreams, written by Adrian Smith, Steve Harris, and Adrian Smith and Steve Harris. It was the first single released on the 1st of September 2003. It went to number 26 in Canada, number 6 in the UK, and number 65 in Australia. And I'll show you a couple copies of it. We'll explain why a couple copies when we get into the B-sides, but what you see here are the UK CD single and DVD single for Wildest Dreams by Iron Maiden. Okay, so Lana, why don't you take it away and tell us how you feel about Wildest Dreams?
I think it's a great opener, and I believe it was one of the singles too, right? One of the singles for the album. Yeah, I think, because I know Maiden, they can write some really long songs, so I think this track was a good way to open up the album, and definitely, just to get it back to, just to show not that they cared about radio, but just to show all the higher up people, hey, we can still write short songs. We still have that classic feel. So I really like that. And looking at the lyrics, I do think this was also one of my favorite tracks in the album too, because it just has that anthemic feel that just like hypes you up, especially when you're having a bad day, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. I reflect some of those sentiments in my notes here, but it is, I confess, one of my least favorite Iron Maiden singles. I find the riff a little uninspired, and I find Bruce's voice sounds tired compared to some of the prior music that they did on Brave New World. But like you say, it is one of those straight ahead, like 3.5 minute rockers. And that is something that fans had complained that Maiden weren't doing enough of. I felt underwhelmed by it when it came out, but I don't know. I'm wishy-washy on the track. I played this album as I always do. I immersed myself in it this week. I played it a lot, and Wildest Dreams always felt kind of like meh to me. So I guess that's how I feel about it. Harrison, how about you?
All right, Wildest Dreams. So this was actually premiered on the Give Me Ed Till I'm Dead tour, which was a sort of hits tour, a short hits tour they did in, I believe, 2003. And Steve has said that after the first few nights of vacant stares, it started going over well with audiences. Personally, I'm a bit more with Mike on it. It's an all right song, but I don't think anything it does is spectacular. And I think it's one of the weaker Iron Maiden openers. Not as an opener, but as a song. For me, it's something that sort of I have to get through on the way to the rest of Dance of Death.
That's a very good way of putting it. I did forget to mention one thing, which is the single version of the track is actually a slight edit. It is missing Nico's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of the track, and it just goes straight into the riff. So it is ever so slightly different on the CD single. And this brings us to another single. This brings us to the second single. Actually, spoiler alert, they laid out the 3 singles, 1, 2, 3 on the album. So second single is a track called Rainmaker. It was written by Dave Murray, Steve Harris, and Bruce Dickinson. It was released on the 24th of November, 2003, went to number 7 in Canada and number 13 in the UK. Lana, how do you feel about Rainmaker?
I actually do think Rainmaker is a better song, in my opinion. I think the melodies are more catchy. I do think Wildest Dreams is still the better opener, but as far as the 2 songs go, I think Rainmaker is the better song, just because I think it's just more catchy. That's personally my opinion.
Totally agree. I wouldn't change Wildest Dreams from the opening position just because I prefer Rainmaker, which I do. I really like what I assume Davy's little guitar intro. You know the part that I'm trying to mime. Really good kind of guitar lick that introduces the song. I think the chorus is pretty strong. I like the lyrics. I think Iron Maiden after the Blaze Bayley era started touching more on human emotions and the human experience. And there's a bit of that on Dance of Death, and Rainmaker is one of those tracks. And look, I can make like a half Michael Eddie face. There we go. How does that look? Does that look good? Half
Yeah,
Michael,
actually.
half Eddie? Okay, good. Excellent. Harrison, how do you feel about Rainmaker?
All right, Rainmaker. Musically, this song is awesome. One of my favorite tracks on the album for the music. Vocally, it's good. But like Mike's criticism of Wildest Dreams, Rainmaker is missing that gusto, that X factor that Bruce had on Brave New World, where he sounded so into every track. Like Mike was saying about Wildest Dreams, particularly the chorus, Bruce sounds not flat, but just lacking that zest that he had on the previous album and on songs on this very album as well. There are songs where he sounds a lot more into it, and I don't think it was an active thing, but I reckon this song could have used a few more vocal takes. The harmony solo section is sublime, though. And now, strictly speaking, the next song we're about to go into, No More Lies, isn't a single; it's a souvenir EP.
True. What I was going to add there is I always speculated at the time that maybe Bruce's voice needed a little bit more rest on this album before they went into the studio. But that's, again, just my own personal speculation. So if, as you alluded to, the third single was actually this EP, the No More Lies Dance of Death Souvenir EP, the booklet of which is right here behind me. Let's take a quick look at the contents. There is the Grim Reaper Eddie on a pretty flashy looking single there. That's a nice looking CD. Quite a thick box. Why a thick box? Because, well, you get this Iron Maiden wristband. So maybe for the first time ever, we are. Look at that. There we go. For the first time ever. I don't remember ever putting this on before. So this is a 22-year-old single, 23-year-old single.
Yeah, I was gonna say that wristband is like over 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's still it's held up well. It's probably because it's been in a box the entire time.
Yeah, it's been in a box the entire time. I barely got any sweat on it that time. This is a longer track, 7 minutes, 21 seconds. We're going to call it the third single. 29th of March, 2004, it came out, just to be exact, 21 years old. It went to number 8 in Canada, number 3 in Finland. And Lana, your thoughts on the Long Bomber, No More Lies?
So out of the first 3 songs, this is actually my least favorite. Just because I don't mind when some bands do it, but I'm not a fan when the artist repeats the title over and over again as the chorus. I just don't think it's effective as like creating a well-fleshed out, a well-written out, catchy, memorable chorus. So this one's lacking in my opinion. So that's my thoughts.
Yep, that's the problem with No More Lies. Back when we did the Virtual 11 album, we had Harrison count the number of times that Blaze sings, "Don't you think I'm a savior? Don't you think I can save you?" I didn't count the number of times that they say "No More Lies" on this song, but it is a lot. And that has always been my issue with the song. It's not the melody. It's not that guitar riff, which is really good. That, it's a really good riff. But that's a bit repetitive too, not just the chorus. What I will say, though, is that there is a great triple guitar solo, which is in order Davey, Adrian, and Yannick. I think, man, when those 3 guys play together on this, especially on this album, I think they were really starting to gel in the studio as the guitar trio. Brave New World was their first time doing that studio experience with the 3 guitar players. I think they really kind of honed in on the 3 guitar sound, and you can really hear it on No More Lies. It really takes advantage of the 3 lead guitar players, or the 3 amigos, as they like to call themselves. So that's my thoughts. Over to Harrison.
I like this song. That I love how it interpolates all these different intensities across the song, from softer verses, sort of building intensity, and then the chorus comes in heavier. Yes, the chorus is repetitive and sort of not doesn't have much variation. That is, the historical and still relevant criticism of the song. Like I never go out and listen to No More Lies because, damn, I want to listen to No More Lies. But whenever I do listen to No More Lies, I always love it.
Okay, so that finishes off the 3 singles and brings us into what we'll call the album tracks. The first of which is Montsegur, written by Yannick Gers, Steve Harris, and Bruce Dickinson. And it's quite a change of pace from the 3 singles. What did you think about Montsegur, Lana?
I think, even though it's a Montecure, I still don't even know how to pronounce it. Montecure. I As far as album tracks go, I do like this song. I also these are one Iron Maiden is one of those bands where you actually enjoy reading the lyrics because it tells a story, and I've always liked that about Iron Maiden. They don't write about the same things like drugs, sex, rock and roll, that sort of thing. They write about history, and I was reading um reading the Wikipedia article about this album this morning, and Bruce talked about how he thinks it's important that we share stories about history because history has a tendency to repeat itself. So I really like the lyrics on the song, and I do like the melodies. Yeah, so I think this is a good one.
As we go through this album, we'll discover that the lyrical themes are varied. Maybe more so than prior Iron Maiden albums. I guess that's something we'll have to discuss at the end. So I just took the Wikipedia article about Montsegur, and I'll read what I cut and paste here. But in the years 1243 to 44, the Cathars, a religious movement considered heretical by the Catholic Church, sought refuge at the Montsegur fortress in France, and they were besieged by 10,000 troops in what is now known as the Siege of Montsegur. In March of 1244, the Cathars finally surrendered, and approximately 244 of them were burned en masse in a bonfire at the foot of the Pog, which is like a mountain, a hill. They refused to renounce their faith, so they burned 244 of them. So there's your history lesson there. It goes back to the Crusades, and it's certainly a fascinating story. Personally, I always found this song a little bit too frantic. You know, that refrain of "At the gates, at the walls of Montsegur, blood on the stones of the citadel." It's a little frantic, and it repeats. You get the same problem as No More Lies, where you get that repetition. But I think I like Montsegur more now than I did then. It's still not it's still not a favorite of mine, but I'll give it a passing grade. How do you feel, Harrison?
This is easily one of my favorite songs on the album. One of my favorite Iron Maiden deep cuts of all time. It's got this great heavy chug, and I love the guitar work going on underneath Bruce on the chorus. Bruce is really sinking his teeth into these lyrics. That criticism I had of Rainmaker, that's gone here. So Bruce could do it on this album. He was capable of bringing that gusto and that performance that we loved about a lot of his vocal performances on Brave New World. It's coming through in spades here, and I think this is probably the best vocal performance on the album. Definitely up there, one of them. Not just for the high voice work in the chorus, which would be a real pain to sing live, but for his mid-range intensity there. This song, it's heavy, it's got high parts, and they never played it live.
That's unfortunate. Spoiler alert, they never played it live. That would be a challenge to play live. I think that's probably part of the equation. But we move on to.
Oh, sorry. I totally forgot about this, but when you brought up when he sings, I don't want to sing it myself, but when he's kind of sounds like he's rushing the lyrics. So I think now think now that would be difficult for them to play
Yeah.
live. And ironically enough, I do think he sounds a little bit tired on that, just because he's singing so many words in one go.
I agree.
That
And
was my other comment.
Yep, I agree. And Harrison mentioned that maybe they should have spent more time on the vocal takes. And this might be a good example that some of these vocal takes sound like they're maybe more tired than some of the others. That's a good point. Moving on, we have an album epic. We have the title track Dance of Death, of which I have a lot to say. Written by Yannick and Steve, 8 minutes and 36 seconds. Lana, how do you feel about this album epic?
I'm not sure if it's because I've seen so many videos of Yannick and what he does on stage, but as soon as I heard the da 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 da, I was like, yeah, Yannick wrote that. I don't know if that sounds mean, but that's what I thought when I first heard the song. But I think it's a fun one, and I think the orchestral gives it more that orchestral version. It gives it that more live, just that more live fun feel. That, but yeah, I think it's great. It's a long song, yeah, for sure. But and going back to the lyrics, I think the lyrics, it's kind of like it's kind of tongue in cheek. So like, I would rather have to dance with the dead. So yeah, but yeah, that's my thoughts.
Okay. For me, there's one part of the song that reminds me of Stonehenge by Spinal Tap. And this is the
Like everything reminds you of Stonehenge by Spinal Tap.
I am not the only one who has noted this. But it sounds very, very similar to the mandolin portion of Stonehenge. Having said that, though, I can't fault the song for that, because Maiden, when they do this kind of thing, they do it well. Sure, Spinal Tap may have parodied this almost exact musical moment decades ahead of time, but when Maiden went in and they did this little jig section, not only does it fit in with the lyrics, but it's still heavy, and it sounds a little pretentious, but it doesn't sound overly pretentious to my ears. I really love Dance of Death. This is my second favorite song on the album. It's the first real epic on the album, because No More Lies is just too repetitive. The song is enticing the entire way through. Bruce's performance is impassioned. We talked in a prior episode about the Rock and Rio album about how sometimes Bruce is very expressive in sort of compensation for sometimes the lack of range that he has later on. And he's so expressive when he sings the line, "And I danced and I pranced and I sat with them, all had death in their eyes." I just butchered it. But it's so
and it's not just for the high notes he's hitting, but for the harshness that he lets into his voice on that line, "all had death in their eyes." He's really like reaching and like struggling, not in a way that makes it sound bad, but in a way that makes it sound real.
Right. Exactly. He's telling you a story here. I kind of call it The Number of the Beast Part 2. You know, I left alone, my mind was blank. I needed time to think and get the memories from my mind. What did I see? Do I believe? This is more depth. This is more detail about perhaps the same experience, perhaps. But Bruce is he had one drink, but no more. He goes out for a walk and he finds this ritual out in the woods, dancing with the dead. After he sings that part about all had death in their eyes, he sings, "Lifeless figures, they were undead, all of them. They had ascended from hell." And it paints this picture, and it sounds like his spirit lifts out of his body, and he's watching his body dance with the dead. And he's horrified, but he somehow makes an escape, and he runs. He never looks back, looks straight ahead. And he doesn't know. He ponders at the end. He doesn't know quite why they let him go. Yannick says that the music was inspired by the 1957 film The Seventh Seal. but I find this song to be haunting, chilling, perfect for Halloween, and it paints such a vivid picture, both musically and lyrically, and Bruce's performance of that song. It's just so good. Dance of Death, you can tell how much I love it. Over to you, Harrison.
Yeah, what a song. A standout on the album. This back-to-back 1-2 of Montsegur and Dance of Death is my favorite part of the album by far. It's an epic tale with another phenomenal vocal performance from Brew. As I said, not just for the range in what he's hitting, but the actual grit and the way in which he performed. There's this one section where the lyrics are by luck then a skirmish started and took the attention away from me. When they took their gaze from me, it was the moment that I fled. And then I ran like hell faster than the wind, but behind me I did not glance. One thing that I did not dare was to look just straight ahead. But he's singing it really fast with this grit, and it's probably my favorite part, other than the death in their eyes part. I love the sort of light and shade of this song. It's almost folksy in places, and then it gets very cinematic with that riff. As we keep coming back to I haven't seen Spinal Tap, it doesn't bother me.
I forgot my lead guitar break notes, which are very important because this song has absolutely epic guitar breaks. But Adrian has the first solo, then followed by Yannick, and then there's a dual melody break followed by Davy's solo, and all three solos are so good. Part of what makes this song so epic is the three solo breaks. And again, they are using the three guitar players more effectively than they did on Brave New World. Moving on, we have track 6, Gates of Tomorrow, written by Yannick, Steve, and Bruce. Go ahead, Lana.
Briefly going back to what you said, Mike, about what you said about the three guitar parts. I think Brave New World, I do think the Dance of Death, it sounds musically better, and they sound more confident as a set piece on Dance of Death versus Brave New World, because Brave New World was kind of like them testing the ground, because Bruce and Adrian Smith just came back to the band. So I think Brave New World was kind of like testing the waters a little bit, and then by Dance of Death, they finally got the guitar parts nailed down. So that's what I want to say about the guitar parts. But going to Gates of Tomorrow, I really like it's gonna sound repetitive, but I really do like the lyrics on these songs. You want forgiveness, you want it cheap. I don't give redemption rewards for to make suffering evil when you pay the price of fame. There isn't a God to save you. If you don't save yourself, can't blame a madman. If you go insane, give me the strength to carry on. You have, in a way, this could also tie into being the price of, kind of like what the lyrics said, the price of fame, being a musician and being away from your family, and just dealing with the madness of being a rock star, that sort of thing. So this isn't one of my favorite tracks on the album. In fact, there are standouts in this album for me, but this wasn't one of them. But with that said, there's not really a terrible track on Down to Death in my opinion. So I'm not saying Get to Tomorrow is a bad song. It just wasn't a standout for me. But if it comes on, yeah, I'll listen to it. That's.
Yep, totally agreed. My notes say that there's a stuttery Van Halen type of riff that opens the song. It's also a little bit like their previous track, Lord of the Flies, but I can't help but think of Van Halen, little guitars in particular. The verses and the pre-choruses offer a contrast with each other. The verses are very monotone with Bruce's voice double-tracked. This is pretty melodic, this song. I don't know. Steve Harris's bass line is quite melodic. It's an interesting bass line to listen to isolated, but yeah, everything Lana said is pretty much how I feel as well. So no need to say it again. And over to Harrison.
Really not a fan of that double-tracked monotone, Bruce. It's part of the reason why I hated the thin line between love and hate, because that really sort of heavily featured that monotone double-track Bruce. It's my least favorite production quirk of any sort of Iron Maiden thing. The pre-chorus isn't too bad. It's probably the highlight of the song.
Okay, so if nothing more need be said about that one, we move on to one of the most interesting songs, the seventh, New Frontier, featuring the first real legitimate writing credit of Nico McBrain with Adrian Smith and Bruce Dickinson. Now, I know, Harrison, we talked about this in a prior episode with Archie Gamble. About
Yes, I alluded to it. And so the background behind this is in some of this documentary footage. Nico goes, I'm a lazy git. I just go and do it, regarding his lack of writing credits. And in Bruce's Brook, he went on to say, well, with this song, we felt that the drums were instrumental, pun intended, to the song. And so we gave Nico a writing credit. That's not to say that Nico hasn't contributed lyrics. Like when we did our interview with Blaze Bailey, he mentioned that Nico did contribute a couple lines or bits of lines to Virus. But in Iron Maiden, just putting in a few words doesn't get you a writing credit. You have to actually be a significant contributor to the song.
And I think in this song, Nico did contribute thematically, but I'll talk about that when I get to my notes on New Frontier. So, Lana, how do you feel about this song?
I do think it's kind of ironic that they did have a song called New Frontier and they eventually released an album called The Final Frontier. I don't know if this was the song was kind of like the little hint of what was to come later on, but I love this song. I think the chorus is great, and I'm not sure if they did perform it live because I'm not familiar with their live repertoire. They didn't play it live. Okay. Well, I think this would be a great one to play live just because of the chorus and the melodies. Um, but yeah, and the fact that Nico he contributed to the song. I think that's really great. Um, I can't. I'll save my comments about like what he contributes because I know because he does have a great sense of humor. But yeah, as far as the song goes, I think it's great. Yeah.
Yep, I really like this one too. So the lyrics on this one are about cloning from the perspective of the Christian concept of the human soul. And Nico is a born again Christian. So I think that may be where he kind of contributed to the theme. Now, even though Steve Harris doesn't have a writing credit on this song, the bass line is really prominent and reminiscent of, in my opinion, early Paul Di'Anno Iron Maiden, maybe something from Killers. I think this is a solid album quality song, not quite good enough to put in the live set. Sorry, Lana, but not a song to skip over on the CD player either. There's an incredible Adrian Smith solo on this one, followed by Yannick and Davey playing contrasting parts together. Okay, over to you, Harrison.
All right, yeah, this is a pretty good song. I particularly love the soloing section and especially that twin guitar part.
Concise. Okay, so the next song is unquestionably an epic. And without further ado, we go to the Adrian and Steve written Passchendaele. 8 minutes, 27 seconds. Lana, your thoughts on Passchendaele?
So, kind of like Gates of Tomorrow, this isn't one of the songs that I remember much from the album. So, again, this is not one of the standouts, but if it comes on, I don't mind it. It's pretty simple and done.
Interesting, because this is my favorite song in the album. Spoiler alert. I find it absolutely epic. One of the most truly magnificent Adrian Smith songs ever written. Another classic guitar solo, Davey and Adrian, with Yannick playing a later third solo. I really love the riff. I love it. The melodies, the eagle scream guitars that you hear. Oh, they're so awesome.
I think that's just an eagle sound rather than
whatever it is. To me, it almost sounds like somebody's doing it on an instrument, but it's incredible. I love it. It's like we talked in past episodes sometimes about sound effects as music and music as sound effects. And that is a sound effect that is music, that eagle scream. It's an integral part of the song for me personally. I love it. The story is about the trench warfare of World War I, the horrors of going over the edge and knowing that you will not come back. And the title soldier in this song, or the prospective soldier, I should say, he just wants to go home. he laments that he will never see his friends again, but then there's a line, he'll be reunited with his dead friends soon. And if you don't know a lot about the trenches, World War One, I recommend reading up on the topic. It's very interesting, and I think Iron Maiden, as much as you can in a rock song, kind of captured that horror, the fact that you're 20, 21 years old and you know that you will not survive the next hour of your life. Absolutely incredible. My personal favorite song in the album, and I can't wait to talk about it again, because we do get to talk about it again when we get to the B-sides. Over to you, Harrison.
Right, in my opinion, this is as good as the album gets. It is an absolute monolith. Bruce is absolutely going for it vocally, and the song has the perfect mix of heavy guitars and orchestration. And it's these songs on this album that really sort of make me appreciate Kevin Shirley's production work, because when we get to the B-sides, I'll have a bit more to say about that. I love how it mixes heavier and softer parts. It's got awesome solos, it's got an awesome bridge, and it's just an awesome song, in my opinion.
Okay, so folks, take the two perspectives and decide for yourself. Moving on to track 9, Face in the Sand, written by Adrian, Steve, and Bruce.
With another unprecedented Nico contribution.
Why don't we talk about that real quick?
Harrison. All right.
Yeah.
Well, without mincing the words, Nico uses for the first and only time in his drumming career a double bass drum, because he thinks that those are undrummerish.
And that's something
but
else.
For whatever reason, he ended up using one on this song. We sort of speculated with Archie Gamble way back on this. Archie maybe thought, well, maybe they wanted to try something different, sort of push the limits and stuff. But for whatever reason, he never used. Well, I know why he didn't use it again, because he thinks they're undrummerish. But whatever it was, it didn't stick.
There you go. So that's the drum part on Face in the Sand. What do you think about this song, Lana?
Enough, there sometimes it's interesting you said that this is the only song, or one of the only songs that he plays double bass drum, because ironically enough, there would be times where it does sound like he's using a double bass drum, but he's not. He's just
sorry, I've probably made a misstatement there. It's a double bass drum pedal. It's specifically the double bass drum pedal that it sort of gives it that very that bit. It's specifically the double bass drum pedal. Sorry, he has used double bass drums, but he just uses his right foot and whatever, because he's usually fast enough.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Sorry, that was my bad.
Gotcha. Well, again, as far as songs go, you just have certain songs that stick with you. I don't really have a lot of memories with this song, but kind of like what you said about previous songs, I don't skip it when it comes on. So that's my take on it.
I like this song. Bruce's voice is kind of stretched out on the high parts, but I do like it. It begins with softly picked electric guitars. It has a slow, moody intro, but it's very catchy and melodic in the guitars. Harrison talked about the double bass drum pedal. The song is lyrically inspired by the Iraq War, the Second Iraq War, and the idea of empires being a temporary thing, like shifting sands in a desert. And some of the lyrics sort of reflect that time. Everybody's waiting for news on TV. I see the signs of the end time. Yeah, so it is indicative of that post 9/11. This is the first Iron Maiden album that's post 9/11. So that comes out in Face in the Sand, in my opinion. Over to you, Harrison.
All right, so yeah, that intro is a bit reminiscent of Blood Brothers, but that's where the similarity with that previous song ends. I do like the sort of building intensity as that sort of second part of that intro comes along. Nico sounds like a helicopter there, just along in the background. Some neat key work, or maybe it's orchestration. It might be orchestration via keyboards in that intro as well.
Okay, so getting further to the end, we have the first version of Age of Innocence that we're going to discuss tonight. Another Dave Murray co-write. That's 2 on this album. Dave and Steve. Take it away, Lana. Age of Innocence.
Yeah, you can really see that I am no expert when it comes to Iron Maiden. I'm just here for moral support. But as far as this is actually one of my favorite songs in the album because coming from a lyric perspective, when I got into this album, I distinctly remember looking up the lyrics when I was last year. It was my first year of my office job. My Yeah, I started working for the state in late November, and then it was in my first year tenure with the state. So, and then that was like but I worked for Disney, but this was like my first experience out in the real world, and it was kind of a shock just to um be in that environment, and you kind of, because what you see on TV, you kind of create this little image and opinion of what the real world and what people are like, but when you actually get into the workforce, it's not that at all. So, kind of like what the lyrics say, the age of innocence is fading like an old dream. That really grabbed me, and that's the reason why the song really speaks to me. And I think with the melodies, it actually has a little pop quality, which, I mean, Iron Maiden's a very weird band, and that sort of in that musical perspective, because while they are metal, their melodies, they do have a lot of bright melodies that can sound pop at times, but that I think that works for them in most perspectives, especially with the song. So this is a standout for me in my opinion, just because from a lyric perspective, I can really relate to the lyrics and where I was coming from when I first heard the song and when I first got into the album. So that's my take on it.
Well, I agree with you about the pop comment that you made, because if I was going to pick a 4th single from the album, it would be Age of Innocence, because it does have that melody. The chorus on this is really powerful. It easily could have been a 4th single, I think. I think it's one of those late album highlights. And as far as the lyrics go, I kind of compare it to some of the stuff that they were singing about on the X Factor. They're talking social commentary again in some of the stuff. There's a line about how the criminal has more rights than us. You cannot call that just. And they know just how far they can go. Conviction chances low. I also enjoyed Bruce's vocals. He kind of goes to the growly sound that Harrison and I have talked about in the past, and he uses that effectively on Age of Innocence. And I just really like the song. So over to Harrison.
I've always said that Iron Maiden don't play heavy metal, they play Iron Maiden, and nobody plays Iron Maiden quite like Iron Maiden does. But that's getting into a whole tangent about music genres were invented by record labels to sell you more records, which we don't have time for today. So I'm just going to say Age of Innocence is an all right song. There's some neat twin guitar work going on here, but this is never the version that I choose to listen to.
Oh, but we will get there. But believe it or not, we are actually at the end of the album already. We ripped through these 13 songs, and that brings us, 11 songs.
Well, we got about another 11 more after this.
That's true. But we have the Smith, Harris, Dickinson Journeyman as the closer. A very unique song, and a very unique closer. What do you think about this one, Lon?
Oh, here we go. So, I when I was getting into heavy metal, and and this was before I started collecting CDs. seriously. So I would sometimes go through, like, look up albums on the internet to see if I just liked it or not. More like background music, and I believe Dance of Death was one of those albums where I listened to, and musically I liked it. I said, oh, that's alright. But then 3 years later, I didn't really think much of it. So then when I heard about this Iron Maiden Future Past tour, I started looking into. I started watching more Iron Maiden videos, and this one particular video, I forget what it's called, but he was ranking all of the Iron Maiden closing tracks. And then I heard that's where I discovered Journeyman. And I'm pretty sure I know I've heard it. If I listened to the album 3 years ago, then I must have heard it. But when you're doing work and you're just not focused on the songs that much, you don't really notice it. But so I consider the first time I heard Journeyman from that particular video, which was a year ago, right before it was during Easter, around Easter 2024. So it was last year, not even a year with this album. So that's how I discovered Journeyman, and that was the reason why I bought the album. Just cut and again, I kind of liked what Harrison said about Iron Maiden. They don't play heavy metal. Because they just play Iron Maiden. Because you wouldn't expect a song like this from Iron Maiden. I mean, it's the most. I'm not. I don't know what if they've done similar tracks with this, but this is probably one of the most laid back and more soothing songs in Iron Maiden's repertoire. And I like that it's different from what's in from their normal repertoire. And I to briefly go over the electric version, I personally, while I like the electric version, I do think it works better acoustically just because it has that more personal closeness feel. Because just to briefly comment on the Death on the Road record, I believe they do cover this all acoustically. And that's
The
the
song
preferred version.
itself is predominantly acoustic.
Okay.
The only true acoustic Iron Maiden song there is "Prodigal Son" from Killers. Sorry to be all pedantic about it.
No, gotcha. Well, because I believe on the Death on the Road record, they do the Death on the Road performance. Uh, at least in the live clip that I saw, they were using all acoustic guitars. So that's the preferred version in my opinion. But electric acoustic, I think this is a great song. And again, going back to my experience working for the state and just working out in the real world for the first time, because there are a lot of outside forces that do want to silence you, and they want to take away your freedom and they want you to conform to the normal society. So when you listen to lyrics like "I know what I want, I say what I want, and nobody will take that away," it's such a simple. Those are simple lyrics, but they really resonate and they stand the test of time. And especially in this current society where there's so not to go into I don't want to go into politics, but when there's so many outside forces trying to tear you down. So besides Age of Innocence, this is my favorite on the record. So that's my take.
A good take. I think that this is truly unlike anything Maiden have done before. And although Prodigal Son is their all acoustic song basically, I think this might be their softest song to date. That might be something I'll get Harrison to comment on. I think the orchestration really sets it aside as something special. Yes, there's an electric version that I'll comment on a bit later, but I think the orchestration here really makes it special. I hear progressive rock. I hear Zeppelin. You could describe this song in so many ways. Listen to how musical Nico is with the percussion too. He doesn't overplay it, but he accents the music perfectly. So Journeyman, one of my favorite songs on the album. And I'm curious what Harrison has to say.
Musically, I think this song is awesome, but there's just something about the vocals. Maybe it's the vocal take, maybe it's the melodies. The vocals for me just don't live up to the potential that the music had. Like, they don't link up perfectly to me. They sound slightly disjointed in a way that I can't put into words. Like, I'm not enjoying the song as much as I would expect to. Like, musically, I love it, but vocally, it just sort of falls slightly flat. I think the chorus is a little underwhelming. But that light acoustic motif is so good. The rest of the song, other than the vocals, is truly great. And I think that this song is the perfect way to close out the album after the lyrical venom of Face in the Sand and Age of Innocence and the sort of aggression of those songs. Having this light acoustic song to give you a final sort of closing out of the album that's a bit more gentle. I think it's perfect sequencing, these last 3 songs.
Agreed with all that as well. We won't rate the album and talk about the artwork yet, though. Let's talk about the B-sides first. So let's go through these B-sides single by single. So starting with Wildest Dreams, we'll start with the CD single for Wildest Dreams, and usually with the B-sides, I like to start. So I will do that this time. We have on the first single here, we have Wildest Dreams, the edited version that I mentioned earlier, missing the 1, 2, 3, 4. We have
any song with less Nico can't be better. Any version.
Fortunately, we have lots of Nico coming. Second track on this one actually does have a McBrain writing credit because it's a jam called Pass the Jam. And then we have Blood Brothers, the orchestral mix. So I'll talk about these real briefly. Pass the Jam is a rare Iron Maiden jam with largely probably improvised vocals. Pass the jam, would you? Awfully kind of you. Bruce doing this accent. It's nothing remarkable except for the idea of Iron Maiden jamming. It's 8 minutes of jamming. The first and only time that you get Iron Maiden jamming on any release of any kind. They're just not that kind of band. The orchestral version of Blood Brothers, it opens softer due to the orchestra replacing some of the backing music. It's overall more dramatic and more powerful. Basically, the orchestration replaces some of the rock band elements. I wouldn't say I prefer it to the original Blood Brothers, but that's what you get on the CD single. And there's the artwork. You can see it there. That's a scene from the music video, the CG music video, which features this car zipping around a CG landscape. This time we'll go to Harrison and then Lana, if you want to comment on these particular B-sides before we move on to the next disc.
All right, Pass the Jam. This is a pretty cool song. It has all these little neat bits in it, as you'd expect from a jam. Blood Brothers Orchestral. I appreciate the effort with these orchestral mixes, as Maiden are yet to play with an orchestra. Some parts sound a little stilted in the song, but I think the chorus works better. Is that the 2 for this disc?
That's the 2, and then we'll move on to the DVD single. Yep. Lana, Pass the Jam, and the orchestral mix of Blood Brothers.
Okay, so I do like that. It's kind of Pass the Jam. I don't think it's a song to be taken seriously. It's just kind of like a fun sort of thing. So like I do like the whole Pass the Jam, like that British humor comes out of it. But I don't personally like the jam. I don't really like jam sessions. So not that they sound bad. I just don't like when you're just playing to beat the time sort of thing. I do like the raw drum sounds because I do like that raw raw, non-edited, like old school old school classic rock sound. So I do like the drum sounds on the Pasta Jam, but again, if I, mm, it's not something that I would want to buy if it's on an album one day, or like if they re-release it again, that sort of thing. Um, the what was it, Blood Brothers? Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
the
there one? Yeah, yeah,
orchestral Blood Brothers. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not really a fan of the song. I think I mentioned this in my album review on my blog. So I just think it's kind of cheesy, the whole message of the song. You know, the joining hands, that sort of thing, like la 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 la. I don't really like that, but I but when I looked it up on Wikipedia, I do think that mm, I I'm not going forward. I'm not gonna be as harsh on it, just because Steve wrote it for his late father, which I get. It's a very sentimental thing, and then it was later dedicated to Ronnie James Dio when he passed away, and then it was dedicated. They've had a lot of dedications to the song in the following years, so I do get the importance, the significance of the song now, but it's not something that I would go back to. I do think the orchestral version, it I do think the orchestral version it's a little bit more bearable, but not quite. Maybe if I listen to it live, maybe if I was if they but the next time I see them, if they ever play it live again, I might change my mind. But for now, I just think it's eh.
Yeah, Lana, I don't know if you caught our Brave New World episode, but I totally went off on Blood Brothers in this like minute-long rant about the song. So yeah, I feel similar about the song to you.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next set of B-sides from the Wildest Dreams DVD single. Yes, DVD single. You can see my HMV price tag there, £299.
Costs a lot more to get that today.
It would be a lot more. I do have a multi-region DVD player, so I was able to play it. They have first the promo video for Wildest Dreams, which, like I said, features this Eddie car racing around. Then we have 2 remixes and a behind-the-scenes video for the Dance of Death album. But the 2 exclusive remixes here are the Nomad rock mix, and lo and behold, another remix of Blood Brothers, a rock mix of Blood Brothers. So those are both obviously from the prior album. Nomad, I put not much different. Some keyboards are still there where the orchestration was before. It's mostly noticeable during the quiet instrumental section. And for Blood Brothers, I put without the strings, it's heavier, and the rock mix might be my preferred version of Blood Brothers. Harrison, do you want to comment?
Yes, so actually we're on the same wavelength for a lot of this. Basically, these rock mixes remove the orchestration. In the case of the Nomad, it's barely different, except for that sort of quieter instrumental part in the midsection. This mix doesn't fix any of the issues I had with the song to begin with. Blood Brothers, like you said, noticeably heavier, but to me, it's still stilted in places. And these 2 mixes prove that they got the album mix right, because I still think the album mix is the best version. And as I talked about earlier, it made me appreciate Kevin Shirley's production, because a lesser producer may have gone with the orchestral mix or may have gone with the rock mix, which would have been an inferior version of the song. But Kevin got exactly the right amount of orchestration and rock in these songs. And I know Kevin's production comes under fire a lot, but I did want to find something to appreciate about it, and these remixes do make me look at his production in a new light.
Okay, good. Lana, did you listen to these tracks, and do you have any thoughts?
I don't understand the purpose of the rock mixes, just because I think the originals are fine. Blood Brothers is not, to be honest, no matter what version, I still don't like the song. But Yeah, I just don't understand the purpose of the rock mixes.
Okay.
Was it just to try something different? Because the orchestral versions I get, just because I've always pictured Iron Maiden as a heavy metal orchestra, but the rock mixes, all they're doing is
It's
just
possible they
making.
just needed a couple of easy B-sides.
I think that's the main reason, and they may also have done different versions in the studio to decide which version they preferred to put on the album. And as Harrison said, they probably put the best versions on the albums, and they had these versions that really they do make good B-sides. Yeah. All right. Well, if we're ready to move on to Rainmaker, I have the Japanese single here because the Japanese single had 2 live tracks that were not on the domestic single. So lo and behold, we had to go out and get a Japanese version of Rainmaker so that we could get all the tracks. These tracks include Dance of Death orchestral version and another jam called More T. Vicar, a couple of live tracks, and we get a CD extra. We get the videos from Wildest Dreams and Rainmaker. So my notes here state that for Dance of Death, it adds a hell of a lot of cinematic drama. And after listening to all of these tracks over the last week, I decided that the orchestral version of Dance of Death is my preferred version. As for More T. Vicar, it's another jam. It's, I guess, a sequel song to Pass the Jam, Would You? And in this one, he's asking if the tea would like more, or the vicar would like more tea. But Bruce also does these kind of like awkward gangster rap vocals where he's like, yeah, bitch. And it's just, I don't know. I guess I'll let Lana talk about the jam some more, but it's not, it's a jam. Okay. It's not that great. The bonus tracks are from the Brixton Academy. They're the Wicker Man Live and Children of the Damned Live. For Wicker Man, I wrote that it's not quite as tight or polished sounding as the previous Rock in Rio live version, but this is the second time now that we get a live version of Wicker Man. As for Children of the Damned, it's not a song that we get live very often, and Bruce says that this version is special because Clive Burr played on the original. It's a magnificent, impassioned version, and I'm sure Harrison will tell us that Brixton Academy show was the Clive Burr benefit show, right?
It was indeed from the Clive Age shows, which were the only live shows they played in 2002. It was about 2 or 3 of them.
There you go. What do you want to say about this selection of B-sides?
All right, so Dance of Death. I'm going to dedicate this version as Stolen Thunder because this is definitely the best song that is most suited for an orchestral mix. It works really, really well. Like Mike said, very cinematic. This is my preferred version of the song, and this is the only one of these alternate mixes that I think is superior to the album version. More T. Vicar, it's a bit of fun. It's basically a joke song. And as far as Iron Maiden joke songs go, I don't compare them to other Iron Maiden normal songs. I compare them to other joke songs. And it's far better than some of those 90s joke songs, like She's as Big as the Hindenburg, or whatever the lyrics were of that ridiculous thing. Bruce rapping is funny. It's not something I'd want to listen to often, but it's funny. Bee Gees Bruce later on with this really high falsetto was also quite funny. There's some early some of the instrumental work early on in the song actually reminds me of Victim of Changes. And so the Brixton Academy, yep, as we talked about previously, these are the Clive Age shows. So, Wicker Man. Bruce's vocals seem a little buried in the mix to me, but that might have just been the YouTube video I was listening to. Children, however, this is the first 3-guitar version of this song that we're getting. It's also the first time it's been played live since the Somewhere in Time tour. This is a solid version. Bruce still has the range necessary to do the song properly, if not the same power. Regardless, he's still very expressive, as he usually always is.
So that's Harrison's thoughts. Lana, do you have anything you want to say about these B-sides?
I don't I'm not in the right mind to say that I think it's the best. Dance or Dies is the better orchestral, but I do think I really do like the orchestral version. And as I mentioned earlier, it gives it that fun atmospheric feel to it, and I do think that I think that part works really well with the orchestra. And again, it goes back to my comment of Iron Maiden. They're basically a heavy metal orchestra, so it was a no-brainer for them to do orchestral versions of their songs. Heck, if they even did a live album with orchestra, I wouldn't even mind.
Yeah.
Not that. Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't say that because the last thing we need is more bands doing orchestra versions of their songs. So,
True.
but yeah. Drastic Symphony, sorry, definitely, but as for Morty Vicar, I know it's a joke song, but and I do think it's good that it shows that Iron Man they still have their youthfulness, their sense of humor. They still like to have fun. So I don't mind it. Would I be okay if I never heard this song again? Yes, especially with the rap parts. I do not like when Bruce raps. I do think that falsetto part is kind of funny though. I'm gonna scream now. Ah! I do think that's funny, but again, would I need to listen to it again? No. I can't comment much about the live tracks because, well, first of all, I had trouble looking them up because I didn't know what performances they were from. But as far as Wicker Man goes, I personally think it's a great song for them to play live. Um, and especially the "Your time will come." That's a good way to bring the crowd together. That's a great hook. I love that. Children of the Damned. Again, I can't comment on the version that's the B side because I didn't know which version to look up. But Children of the Damned, it's it's probably one of my least favorite songs from Number of the Beast. I just don't get the hype for it because it's just one of those slow songs that just kind of drags, and you hear Bruce going "Children of the Damned," like it kind of. I mean, now when you do the fist pumping thing, I could totally see it, but um yeah, never really was one of my favorites in the Number of the Beast album. So those are my takes.
Okay, well then we move on to the final batch of B-sides from the No More Lies EP. And yes, I've got my wristband on one more time. And we have here an orchestral version of Passchendaele, the electric version of Journeyman that she talked about earlier, a video for No More Lies on the enhanced CD, and a hidden bonus track, which actually I'm going to save that for last. I'm going to talk about the other two B-sides, and we'll do one more round to talk about the very special final hidden bonus track. The only real clue is that it says here that you get over 30 minutes of music. So that might be the only clue that you get a hidden bonus track. But first we get the orchestral version of Passchendaele. And considering how much I raved about the album version, you might be surprised to hear that I like the orchestral version less. I think it's an example of when too much is too much. If you strip it back a bit, I think the album version is my preferred version of Passchendaele. It's just, pour some sugar on me. They poured a little bit too much sugar on Passchendaele. So the orchestral version is not my preferred. Now, Lana said that she liked the electric version of Journeyman. There are more guitars. It is more of a rock version. The new guitar parts that are on this electric version of Journeyman are magnificent, and they're loaded with feel. They're very bluesy. But I think the song loses what made it unique in the trade-off. Yes, you get some amazing soulful guitar parts, but you lose perhaps what made the track unique for Iron Maiden. So it's a matter of taste. It's a matter of preference. Harrison, tell us what you prefer.
Yeah, Mike, you and I have been like laser focused, like in line with a lot of these remixes because Passchendaele Orchestral, the increased orchestration takes a lot of the heaviness out of the song to the detriment of the song. And additionally, the orchestration can be very overbearing at times to the detriment of the song. Some parts do work, but I'm really not a fan of this version overall. Journeyman Electric, some bits don't work well at all. Some bits made the translation to electric quite well. I actually think the singing works a lot better with the electric version. I actually prefer the way the singing and the electric meshes, even if the album version is my preferred version of the song. As I was saying earlier, these mixes really made me appreciate the production work of Kevin and Steve in picking the right mixes of these songs for the album.
Perfect. Lana, the orchestral mix of Passchendaele, and if you wanted to comment further on the electric Journeyman.
I personally don't mind the orchestral version for Passchendaele. Again, just because I kind of just, again, I do think of Iron Maiden as a heavy metal orchestra. Would I would go back to it? No, but if I listen to it again, I wouldn't mind. It's kind of going back to, does Iron Maiden, would it be cool if they did a heavy metal album with an orchestra? Yes. Do they need to? No. Would I mind it? No. I wouldn't mind it. But again, do they need to? No. So, for just to experiment, I like it. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but that home far away, that's my favorite part of the song. I love that part. Again, just has that anthemic feel, and for that headbanging thing, I love that. The Journeyman Electric version, I forgot who, I heard this line somewhere, I forget who said it, but a great song is a great song, electric, acoustic, so that's personally why I don't mind the electric version for Journeyman. But again, I prefer the acoustic version just because it has that personal closeness feel. But it's still electric, acoustic, it's still a great song. So, no complaints there.
Okay, then we move on to the final track, the one that's not listed on the back. It's a song called Age of Innocence, How Old? And it is a Nico McBrain lead vocal on Age of Innocence from the album, which is a song that all three of us raved about, but Harrison alluded to it's not his favorite version of Age of Innocence to listen to. The Nico McBrain lead vocal version is absolutely hilarious. He loses his place in the song. Lose my place again. I think that's even a line in the song.
Yeah, he mentions about he's getting lost. Occasionally, there's one time he's like, oh no, that's the bridge.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is when he's singing along to the guitar solo and literally going
not singing along actually, because it's not just an instrumental track. They've actually scrubbed the guitar solo out of there so that he can just do one with his voice.
I don't know what the idea here was, obviously, to make a funny B-side, which Iron Maiden are prone to do every period. Periodically, Iron Maiden throw in a howler of a hilarious B-side, and this is their first in a while. Well, I mean, the two instrumentals are comedic as well, but this is really their first balls out. We're doing comedy for a B-side, and it's all because of Nico, and he laughs throughout the whole thing. You know, he's constantly laughing. He even has one line about a fart, which is the first fart referenced in an Iron Maiden song since Sheriff of Huddersfield. I love Age of Innocence, How Old? I mean, I'm never going to sit there and go, yeah, what a great song when I'm listening to the How Old version, but I laugh so hard every time. Nico's take on that lead vocal is so funny. It's so funny. I can't say anything else. Over to you, Harrison.
This is the better version of the song. There, I said it. This is the version actually I first heard of the song. And I love this version. Nico, he's a blast. And call me a weirdo, because I mean, I've got Edward Furlong in my CD collection. I've got Oingo Boingo. But I think Nico actually sounds good in his own way and like tuneful in his own way. Like he's obviously not singing the melodies right, but I really like what he's singing. I really like listening to him sing. There's two parts where that I think stand out for me. This one bit where he like rounds out the second chorus with da 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 da, lost me place. I don't know, that little da 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 da, it just sounds so tuneful, so perfect for that moment there. And particularly when the twin guitar part comes in, he's like nee, 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 wow, 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 and he's singing along to the twin guitar part. And I'm listening to that and I'm thinking, I actually think that these twin guitars are enhanced by having Nico sing over it. I don't think the album mix, why am I not in focus? I don't think the album mix without Nico adding that third harmonization is as good as hearing Nico. It's easily my favorite part of any version of the song is him singing along to that twin guitar part. This song is 6.5 minutes and it doesn't drag for 1 second.
You know, I'm going to add one thing because you mentioned how you like the sound of him singing certain parts. Another part that I enjoy hearing him sing is "The age of innocence is fading like a dream," and he sings it better than I do. But he actually does sing the notes quite well. And it, yeah, you know what? It's not pleasing to the ear. It is. It's pleasing to the ear. But maybe Lana might disagree because I saw her baffled when you said it's your favorite version of the song. So Lana, go ahead.
So when I heard the song on YouTube, I looked up the song on YouTube and I saw one comment, and it goes back to what Mike said about that comedy aspect. It said, if Nico weren't a drummer, he would be a great comedian. And then I was like, yes, that is so true. Because Nico is actually, besides Bruce, Nico is probably my favorite member of the band. Just because I like his sense of humor. He just seems like that nice guy that you just want to have a drink with. And you could just listen to him talk all day long. And you know how British people with accents, when they sing, they don't really, some singers can pull it off, but certain singers, when they sing, you can't really hear their accent. So, but obviously, Nico, he was kind of like joking around, so he wasn't really singing, he was kind of like jokingly singing, so you still heard his accent, so it kind of felt like he was right there in the room singing the song to you. So I really thought that was cool. And first of all, Nico, he's just hilarious. He is just a character, great sense of humor, great personality. So thankful I got to see him live. And they actually played it to a backtrack, is that right? They weren't in a studio when they recorded this,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
He was playing it to a backtrack. Okay.
Yeah, at the very start, Nico starts wheezing and goes, "Oh, they got the music to go along with it."
Yeah, so you get the impression that it was kind of set up ahead of time and he didn't know exactly how it was going to go.
Yeah, because let's be real, they tried to play this live. There's no way they could get through the first minute without bursting out laughing.
It'd be fun to hear them try.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, but I love this version. Would it be my favorite version? No, but if they decide to release a greatest hits and they included this version, I would buy it in a heartbeat. This version is hilarious.
Bonus track. Bonus track. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have tackled all the album tracks. We have tackled all the B-sides. We are not going to go into super detail on the Death on the Road tour because we are obviously going to do an entire episode on the Death on the Road album and DVD.
I'll still give you the cliff notes as I usually do.
Here's the cliff notes.
So 53 shows from October 2003 to February 2004, making it a very small tour by Iron Maiden standards, especially for an album tour. Now, the set list, they played 6 songs from Dance of Death on the regular, including Journeyman in the encore. Now, it's actually very rare for Iron Maiden to go out and tour an album and to still be including new songs by the time of the encore, but Journeyman was opening the encore, and like it was alluded to, they got Yannick there to play the acoustic bit. because I believe that Yannick plays all the acoustic bits on stage, except when Steve has to do an acoustic bass or something. So the two singles were played as well, Wildest Dreams and Rainmaker, along with the three big ones in No More Lies, Dance of Death, and Passchendaele. Now, the only returning track from Brave New World was the title track Brave New World itself, and the rest of the songs were the usual suspects from the band's classic years, except for Lord of the Flies from the X Factor, which was a very welcome, at least welcome for me, a very welcome surprise inclusion that was the final time they had ever played anything from the Blaze era prior to the Legacy of the Beast tour. Now, as for notable events on this tour, well, there was the Dortmund show where they recorded Death on the Road, which we will get more into next time when we tackle that album. But there was no encore at a certain New York show because a fan spilt a beer onto the soundboard during Iron Maiden. So regarding the future, as in these songs in the future of the set list, all but disappeared. There was nothing ever played from Dance of Death again, but for the Final Frontier tour, where Wildest Dreams and No More Lies made an appearance for 36 shows on the 2010 leg. Passchendaele made just 5 appearances on that 2010 leg, and then Dance of Death making about 60 appearances, I think, across 2010 and 2011. But since then, there has been nothing from Dance of Death ever played again, which is a shame because Passchendaele, come on, play that again.
Okay, so that's the tour, which we will get into in more detail in our Death on the Road episode. For now, we'll sum up by looking at the album art in a little bit more of a critical eye. Actually, before we do that, I want to talk about something in the packaging, something very indicative of the time period. This was inside my copy of Dance of Death, this little green flyer that says keepmusiccoming.com. This is the Napster era, folks. So we get this little text that says, thank you. On behalf of the creators of this recording, we thank you for making this investment and hope you enjoy this music for years to come. Your decision to buy this recording is appreciated by more than 40,000 Canadians who work hard producing and supporting music. Many people, including artists in capitals, writers, musicians, producers, and engineers were involved in the creation of this recording. Music creators are supported by retailers and music distributors, music publishers, manufacturing, record companies, video producers, promoters, and concert touring groups. All have a passion for music and a desire to continue to create and deliver the music that you'll want to hear and love tomorrow. Thanks again. So again, really takes you back to the Napster era. They're really kissing your butt for buying the album. Album art, garbage.
There are conflicting sort of stories regarding how this album art ended up the way it was. So the sort of like Wikipedia story is that the artist made the original version of the art, which is what you see minus all the CG figures. Rod Smallwood came along and put in a lot of these CG figures and then sort of asked the artist to sort of tidy it up a bit, but the artist refused, had his and decided to have his credit scrubbed from the album, and it went out as is. However, in the Dance of Death electronic press kit on the Death on the Road DVD, Steve Harris says, well, we got the first version of the art, and we actually had to get the artist to go back and add some more stuff on it because we didn't want it to be a nice art. We wanted it to be like grotesque and all that. Either way, it's not the best looking Iron Maiden art.
I will draw your attention to the white wolf and the baby on top of it. The bad computer graphics, you can clearly see the baby's foot, his left foot, is embedded within the wolf. What is he standing on? What is he standing on? This is awful. Now, the booklet itself is a lot better. We get a pretty cool band shot. I like that. They're in some kind of gothic hallway. But the individual band photos are kind of cool. The Steve Harris one is the easiest one to see, but they're surrounded by ghosts of these women. But you can see one of them has her arm around Steve. And each individual band photo looks like that. They're these spectral women surrounding the band members. The back cover here of the booklet is absolute crap, though. That's garbage.
Also used for a promo CD cover for Wildest Dreams.
Terrible. Lana, do you want to comment on the artwork before we wrap this all up?
Actually, when I first saw this back cover, I thought I got a damaged version because it was it just looked like crap. Is this really what it looks like, or did I get a beat up copy? So yeah, that's crap. But going back to these images with these ghosts. Oh yeah, I thought
That's a cool image there.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like the sun. I like these ghosts. It kind of goes back to the title track, "Dancing with the Dead." So I think that's cool.
Yeah, there you can see them there. Yeah.
Yeah. These figures, it really does take you back to 2000, showing you how far the CGI animation has come since then. But
You want to see something else cool, Lana? Check this out. I just noticed it on the CD itself. You see that little logo there? That was
I've got that sticker on my jewel case.
It used to be a form of copy control. Back in those days, computers couldn't copy or even play these CDs without special software. Obviously, that is no longer the case, but that's what that was. It was an attempt at copy control. You could not play this CD in a computer without special software.
Yeah,
I don't actually think. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no!
I don't actually think that the art is as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Like, I look at this cover and I'm like, it's not the best Iron Maiden cover, but I'm not filled with like the instant revulsion and need to throw up. I've actually seen the sort of pre-CGI version where it was just him standing and the dudes behind him, and it looks empty, the previous cover art. I actually prefer having the figures there. I would have preferred if they were a little bit more well done, but I don't think it's like anywhere near as bad as most people make it out to be.
Worst Iron Maiden album cover ever. Going on record. That is my stance. You've heard it here in 50 Years of Iron Maiden. Worst one. I will give the album a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's pretty darn good. I think for 11 tracks, there's not a lot of fat that you would cut. I think there's some really good deep cuts. 4 to 5 stars. Harrison.
I'd give it a 3.75. It's definitely one of my bottom Maiden albums. Snip a track or two and it might go up to a 4, sort of on par with Brave New World. I used to think this album was 14 tracks long because it just felt so long. And then when I came to revisit it for this album, I'm like, oh, there's only 11 on here. Oh.
Well, you heard what I said earlier when I said we've zipped through these 13 tracks. I'm like, oh, there's only 11. So there you go. Lana, on a scale of 1 to 5.
I do think this album cover is a million times better. However, this album is a million times better musically.
Okay. An improvement
so,
for you.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Okay, so we're both on the same page. So there you go, folks. Iron Maiden reunited with Brave New World, but then they followed it up. They grew, they changed, and they will continue to try new things as we go forward on 50 Years of Iron Maiden. I want to thank Lana Teramae. You can check out her blog right there, lanateramae.com. You can check her out at Metal Express Radio. Thank you for joining us today for Dance of Death, and we will see you again next time on 50 Years of Iron Maiden.